Mr. Russell, could you please do the invocation for us, please?
Sure. Heavenly Father, we just we ask that you bless these proceedings and our deliberations, and continue to bless our efforts and our work in the community and our residents, our families, especially as we approach the holiday season. And ask a special blessing on our Shop with the Cop event this Saturday morning. And we pray that the relationships formed at that event are lasting and meaningful. And we just thank you for blessing us and blessing our efforts, and continue to guide our way. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's right, I think Commissioner Mason's out of town, right?
Yeah, she's out on a cruise, she said. I ran into her the other day. Okay, roll call. Myself is here. Vice Chair Coleman's not here. Jack Meredith.
Here.
Commissioner Finger. Here. Commissioner Meredith, Commissioner Finger. Commissioner is out of town. Commissioner Morgan. Here. Commissioner Roman.
Here.
Thank you. City Liaison Jean Cohen.
Here.
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to ask for approval for the minutes from October 23rd meeting, board meeting. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion.
Yes, second. Thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
aye. Any nays? Okay. Approval of agenda. I'd like a motion to approve of agenda,
Was Finger at the meeting?
because we only had
Oh,
6 out
yeah.
of
I
7.
think you have to vote present on the minutes.
Oh, I didn't vote. I figured I
Just
can't
vote.
vote present, can I?
Yeah, you can.
I can for this meeting.
No, you have to vote present on the previous minutes because you weren't in attendance.
Present, that's right.
Okay, I would like to ask for.
And that's correct. I'm sorry, I'm having a little problem with the audio.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for approval of the agenda for today.
Move approval.
Approval. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, do all in favor? Say aye. Any nays? Thank you. So we have a special presentation from our city commission liaison update, please.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing to report? Okay.
Quick and easy.
Well, actually, we did have a community meeting. Was it yesterday? The DISCA group had a community meeting on homelessness and an outreach. And it was a pretty packed house. There was a lot of information given out. But I think that it just shows that there's a lot of interest in not only folks who are unsheltered, but also in folks who are struggling. And I think that it's an opportune time to, reach out and talk to folks in our community and educate them on what the reality is of our world. So, I don't know, do you have anything to add, William? Mr. Russell?
I mean, I think, obviously a practitioner's perspective, but I had some expectations for that meeting, and I was kind of disappointed that 45 minutes of it was introductions of everybody on the panel. So I kind of wanted to just jump into like what's happening, what are the strategies we're working on. And I got a little bit of that, like it was good to get the woman from the Salvation Army explaining how they've changed their operations and stuff. That's the kind of thing I was hoping to get more of.
But yeah, I think it opens
But it was
the door
very
to
well
more.
attended. It was very well attended.
More of those would be good.
I got a question. How's our, just thinking about it now, our voucher utilization for the homeless program?
About 35 of the 60. So,
Gotta get them used.
yeah.
We give city So there's 60 vouchers available for homeless.
It's actually the city and the county hot teams.
So how do we reach out? Who do we reach out to for that?
Oh, they know. I mean, they know they're available. It's just, I know.
Is it Salvation Army? Who is it?
No, it's Dee Dee's group.
Dee Dee's group. Okay, well, should I remind Dee Dee?
It's Dee Dee's group, and you can.
Who's Dee Dee?
I'm pretty certain she knows, but because I think
She is head of the city's hot team.
homeless outreach
Oh, okay.
office.
Yeah, 'cause I remember it was a number of years ago, because I remember there was somebody I actually referred to go get a voucher, and at one point, I think we were using like 5 of the 30 or something like that. I'm like, so when we talk about strategies, it's one of those, resource available.
Sorry.
And there are 60 vouchers, and there are currently only 30 used.
I want to say 35 was the last number I saw, and that was pretty recently.
Yeah.
Okay, I will let her know. That's a very good suggestion.
Yeah, 25 people. We can get into a house or home.
I mean, as Dee Dee and others said, it's not as straightforward as it sounds to get someone who's been chronically homeless for 10 years
Sure.
into an apartment. And I know that's why our board also stipulated that they want the city's homeless outreach team to provide case management for 12 months, because we don't want to just put someone in a private rental unit and then have no follow-up and counseling and stuff.
Yeah, and nobody will house them.
But,
I get it.
so I think they're trying not to, I think they're trying to intentionally refer people who they think can, effectively live independently with some case management. So.
Sure.
Maybe not the chronic people.
Well, no, I think they have housed chronic people.
Okay.
I'm just saying not everyone who's chronic is maybe not ready to take that step.
Okay. All right, I can ask.
That's all I got.
There was a podcast. So the New York Times has a podcast called The Daily. It's every weekday, and they did an interesting one on Friday. A business person in Austin invested in, basically bought land, and he, I think, lives out there. But it's basically like a mobile home park for chronically homeless people in Austin. He started volunteering at like a soup kitchen and kept seeing the same people over and over and over again, and was like, are we really not doing anything to like house these people? So apparently now like the feds are investing in it, and it's going to grow to like over 2,000 units. But it's a very interesting concept and discussion, so I would recommend. I think it's free if people want to listen to that. But it was interesting.
Hey, Bill, let me clarify. So you're saying the feds are investing in mobile home parks?
Well, a private investor started it,
Mhm.
and I don't know how many he put in there himself, but I think they're looking at the concept of it and then wanting to kind of like double down on it. So each person kind of has their own space. So if someone is having like a mental breakdown or whatever, it's like they're in their private personal space, and it's not in a common area. If they have bed bugs, if they have roach infestation, it's not going through the walls into their neighbor's house and that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's an interesting concept. So
No, I just want to mention, there's a guy in Sarasota that I met once that builds those container houses, which is similar to that, except they're more permanent. They can last 10 to 20 years, but they can be put up very quickly.
I know a
Whereas-
company in Wauchula that actually makes them.
Yeah, might be the same guy. He lives here.
Martin Blair.
No,
Pardon
his
my
name
language.
is Jeff Gould. But I could put you together with him, you can talk to him, maybe something can come of it. I know they're not cheap, but they go up fast. And you don't have to you can stack them also. So you can actually make them so that you have 2 or 3 on top of each other. Or you can just spread them out.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, public presentations, we have none.
Well,
No one? Yeah.
No
Resolutions, no
No
resolutions?
resolutions.
Okay, we on to old business development updates.
So I'm going to turn to Jake and Joe. Jake, I hope you're feeling okay.
I am much better than yesterday. I appreciate you asking. Had a quick sinus surgery yesterday, so had a bunch of gauze on my nose, and life's on a good track today. So thank you.
So let's talk about the McCown Tower parking garage proposal in terms of getting the board's approval to submit an application coming up for that. And I don't know if you want to, are they, I guess the site plan's in the board packet, Andrew?
Yes. Should be the next thing after the last board meeting minutes.
So Jake, I know you shared your screen during the development committee. I don't know if you want to do it again for the full board.
Yeah. So I'll be relatively brief and just kind of giving an overview of what we talked about last time and then what the plan looks like. But where we've landed for now, so just, I guess first and foremost, there's an RFA, Live Local, Florida Housing Level that's due next week, December 20th. I know this board is familiar with, that process and everything that goes into it. And so right now we're putting all the docs together that we can to try to make that deadline, which I don't see any reason we can't do, assuming this board signs off. What we're looking at right now is basically a proposed development for what would be the next phase of McCown Towers. It would be 7 stories. The first floor would have basically, as shown here, about 7,200 square feet for amenities, offices, etc., and another 5,500 square feet for retail, with roughly 99 parking spaces for the city of Sarasota. The following 2 floors are just parking. So in total, there would be 377 parking spaces. In terms of the units, those would be on floors 4, 5, 6, and 7. There would be 40 floors, or 40 units a floor rather, for a total of roughly 160 units. That would be 121 bedrooms and 40 studios. On the following pages, if you zoom in or have it in your packages, it's basically what these studios look like, roughly 584 square feet. A few of the 1 bedrooms, just to make it work, are also that size, but with an extra wall. And then the majority of the units, 120 of each, are the 740 with some balconies as well. I think the last thing that I will say about this proposed development, as was the case with Lofts on Lemon 2, which is looking great right now and has a projected closing of roughly April, May of next year. This development, if we submit it, I think what we need to know is that there really are not going to be a whole lot of other opportunities to access $15 million from the state. So I think it's a great opportunity. On the flip side, elements like the parking and allocating that to the city in return for some type of grant or bond or other is not yet established. And these are effectively the plans we have right now. So the construction costs that we're carrying, which we've gone out to multiple GCs and range anywhere from 52 to $55 million, are very early in the process. And I say all that to say that our firm with Joe and Darren Smith are okay to submit this as is and access that $15 million. But I think the board does need to know that just like Lofts 2 and others, there will be fundraising elements and otherwise that we will continue to need to work on with the city and otherwise to make sure that this deal comes together, along with any value engineering, et cetera, with whatever the chosen GC is. So with that, I will stop, allow Joe or William to say anything else, and open for any questions.
Are you waiting for questions from us? Oh, I thought you guys were gonna speak. I got you.
Yes.
By the way, I think these smaller units, the studio, the S1 and the A1 that are 584, those are bigger than the units we have in this building. So
How flexible is this? In other words, if we could raise more money somewhere else, could we do another floor, say?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing always, John, is that whatever we commit to the state, we can't do less than that. So we have to do 160 units. And for us to be successful and win this, senior housing is capped at 60, which is how we came to that unit count. So as long as we don't go under that, we're fine. The unit mix can also change. I mean, we could end up with only 1 bedrooms or more studios. We could end up with less parking. Everything is fungible but the unit count. We have to be at a minimum of 160 units if we win.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jake.
I guess I'm, in favor of moving forward of this as long as you said, like, we have the flexibility in the future if we want to, for example, eliminate a parking level because the city's not on board for, helping to pay it. Or also, in addition, we have some flexibility with the unit counts. Not the unit counts per se, but I mean the unit makeup. Because I did have a few comments regarding the unit makeup. So as long as, we agree to meet the 156, and then we could discuss, a future point regarding the units themselves. Is that correct? We have the latitude, as you were saying, to make those adjustments in the future, other than the unit counts?
I think
Yes, yeah, correct.
it says 156, but it does total up to 160. So
Okay.
Are these senior housing or is it gonna be mixed?
senior.
Senior.
That's part of the funding mechanism too.
Yeah.
So, I
just want to make sure that we're all saying, so the latest plan is actually 160, and you can see it if I zoom in here. But last time we all met, we shared 2 different plans that were roughly 156 and 160. After that meeting, and after meetings with the architect and the GC, and just trying to make all the numbers work and have the floors be equivalent, we landed at this 160, which has this mix of 1 bedrooms and studios. So I just want to make sure, for the record, that if we get the approval today, that we will be submitting for we definitely want to do, because that gives us the greatest odds of winning, and also allows us to access the most amount of money. Every unit you can get $95,000 in sale funding, so we definitely want to do that. And to Jack's point, we are not locking ourselves into any unit makeup, as it were. We are locking ourselves into doing 160 units minimum.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to get that, have the opportunity to get that amount of funding. So.
Understand. Dave.
Dave, stop, apologize. Jay?
So we don't need to decide whether they're family or elderly at this point for the application, or is that something that needs to be established?
The proposal here is for elderly. Just kind of given the odds of funding, it seems like a better certainly, I've heard it from both sides, elderly and family. Certainly with family, we can also house elderly. But just given the chances of funding, that's why we're thinking to go the elderly route. Again, to kind of to Jake's point, this could change, next year, and maybe we'll look at it a different way. It seemed like, again, I think there's a need for everything, so
Sure.
we're kind of hitting, we're kind of hitting it either way. But I think if the board has specific goals, kind of a consensus, it's always good to hear them so we can try to model around that going forward.
Commissioner?
What was the total project cost again?
52 to 55 million.
52 to 55?
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Jay?
We can't hear
You're
you.
breaking up.
Their initial number is 55 million. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we
Now
can.
we can.
Okay. Yeah, so we went out to Wiseman, who is doing lofts 2, and their rough and dirty number is about 55 million. We sent the same plans to Pike, who's a construction company that we're building multiple now. Well, new construction. The Smith Enzy team is, and their number was about 52 million. So we're modeling the deal at 55, but like anything, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. It's really a data point for right now until we elevate the design a little bit more and have more info. But I'd say both groups did a pretty good job on Lofts 2 throughout in terms of providing pre-construction pricing. So hopefully we should be in that realm.
I just had a question. Is there a certain number of elevators that are needed per certain number of units? There's only 2 elevators, and we have 2 elevators in our current building with 100 units, and it seems kind of sometimes we are having problems with enough elevators, especially in a fire or need people to move people in and out. I think maybe 4 elevators would be more appropriate. Just a thought, though. I don't know for sure.
Or at least 3.
But 2 elevators is a lot for 160 units.
I mean, to that point,
I think some of that stuff too, we could decide later too, right? But
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think
we
it's a
can-
very good point.
well, and having like a
Commissioner, just a
resident
data
dedicated one.
point, the operating speed of these
New elevators are better. Those elevators are better.
about 50%.
You guys,
You
are
guys
breaking
better
up.
get better
Basically,
cell phones.
the operating
Yeah, we
speed.
keep losing both of you.
Stop using T-Mobile.
I can hear you, Joe. Can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah, it's a connection with the housing authority, I believe.
Oh, it's off.
Oh,
You guys hear us or
yeah.
no?
They're blaming us.
Blame it on William.
It's cutting in and
Yeah.
out.
He's cheap.
It's Andrea's fault.
You're going to pay for that.
Oh, I know something.
I bet I will.
Tim's got a question.
Ernest?
Oh, excuse me, yes.
I'm going to follow up on one of the questions, and that has to do with the fact that we are providing 100 units, 100 parking spaces for public parking. Is that correct?
Approximately.
377 parking
Approximately.
spaces. So about 160 for us and
260.
whatever,
Yeah.
260. I mean, and
270,
100. So
yeah.
what is the contribution for the parking part of the building?
That has not been determined.
Is there
I
any
had an
assistance?
initial meeting with the city manager.
So that hasn't
think
been
we can
determined
hear.
yet,
No.
but there is something in the works, is that correct? The
Potentially.
other thing is, it's not accurate to just divide the units into 55 million, because that ends up meaning that the cost per unit is over 350,000.
Right.
When you have 100 extra parking units, that's a big chunk. That could be several $1 million.
Right.
Well, that's what I was indicating, wanted to make sure we have the latitude to extract that from the project if we don't
Yeah.
get funding for it.
That's what I'm saying.
And with,
And if we don't work out a deal, then
yeah, because this
we won't be
structured
able to
parking
have
is
it
extremely
used.
expensive. That's why these units are so expensive because of
Yeah.
the structured parking.
Okay.
Are there any amenities?
The apartments take about $40,000 to $50,000 to construct right now.
What's that again?
I think it's at 40 to 50,000 for
At
the
the-
units.
at the
For each space? Parking space?
Per parking space.
parking space.
Yeah.
So what's proposed is an amenity deck on the top of the parking garage, so the very first floor of the residential.
Okay. Okay, and on the amenity deck, do you know what that's going to be?
What do they call
I
it?
think that,
An open kind of park area. That's sort of the concept at the moment.
Can you guys hear me or no?
yes, we can.
Yeah, so as far as what Joe's saying, yeah, this area is basically open to the sky and accessible, so that could be whatever, you know, type of outdoor hangout area. Again, building possibility there to only be now the over 7,000 square feet out for amenities, offices, etc. And all this can be broken out with feedback from you know, from William, you know, the board, etc. So I think there's a lot of room for any, you know, really anything that you guys would like to see.
And the office amenity would be like.
I think the other one quick thing on parking, which sounds like you guys already hit on.
Or would it be on the first floor?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
All right. Sorry. You guys hear me now or no?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, but after like 30 seconds, it starts getting very choppy.
All right. All right. Well, I think the one takeaway I want to just say on the parking is that the parking requirement for this area is only half a space. So theoretically, between the existing buildings, which I believe are 175 units, plus this 160, you know, that puts us at whatever. Meaning that could be either, you know, removed, reallocated, etc., subject to those negotiations with the city. So I think there's a lot of room here to play as we go forward. So that's it.
Just one more question about funding. If it's 55 million, and I think you said the sale funding was 91,000 per unit, that puts you at 14.5 million. Where do the remainder of the funds come from?
Tax credit will be a hunk of it.
And debt.
So that's
Bonds.
That's credits.
40 million?
First mortgage.
40
Yeah,
million?
that, what?
First mortgage and tax credit.
In tax credits and debt. The mortgage.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, it's pretty
Our
good.
funding NOI.
Can you say that again?
I can paycheck.
Well, we can't.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so there effectively would be roughly $15 million from the state. So $95,000 per unit is what's available. The other funding is as Joe said, tax credit equity, which right now I don't.
You cut out.
You know, which is based on the NOI and the incomes. And then everything from there is really just any soft debt that we're able to get or a developer fee that we have to defer to balance the source and uses. Were you guys able to hear that or no?
Part of
Yes,
it.
part of it.
Part of
We
it.
got the gist of it as well.
We got the gist of it.
They can text
Okay.
me.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay.
Call the question. No, I'm sorry.
Well, I think some of the details are going to be filled in once we.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
just voted to move forward.
Yeah.
On the
All
application.
I
right.
was just, if there were some of the questions, I was gonna go to motion on to move forward. Okay.
Make more.
Okay, make a motion to move forward with, trying to, get the funding.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Hello, a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, thank you.
No nays? Oh, that's perfect.
Okay, do we have, okay, we're gonna move on to Cypress Square, to courts, to.
Jake, can you give 20-second snippets on Cypress Square 2 and Lofts 2?
Sure. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah?
Yeah, for about 20 seconds.
All right. I think the quick snippet for Cypress 2 is that we have a scheduled closing date of March 5th. We're starting bond calls this Friday. Everything's coming together, so it's a lot of just blocking and tackling. as it pertains to getting on Florida Housing's board in January, along with the HFA of Lee County and their boards. And right now, the schedule as is closing March 5th. Everybody on the team is working hard on the various permits and the preservation board that we need to go in front of to start the demolition for the existing units. So that's a quick snippet on Cypress 2. As far as Loft 2 goes, that's probably about 2 months behind, just in terms of the complexity of that deal and all the different elements that we went through. But at this point, that deal is fully financed. All the financing mechanisms are in place, with the exception of the perm debt, which we're in final negotiations on with Fannie right now, with the Housing Authorities Council. We have a call tomorrow with John Wiseman and his team to wrap up some elements of the early work and overall GC contract. Now that we have got the county to continue their commitment of $7 million to the project, we want to get the sewer relocation and all the other site work done as quick as feasible via permits, etc. And that deal should be closing, like I said, about 2 months after Cypress 2, so probably early May. And that's where both deals are at. I know I owe this board kind of some one-pagers, and I'll work with Mr. Chambers on putting this together.
And then any update on the litigation for Cypress Square 3 and Central Gardens?
That's a great question. I have not heard anything else on it. I don't believe that Blue Sky has dropped their case against McDowell. So, let me follow up on that, and I'll let you know. You and Joe know, unless you know anything I don't know, Joe.
I know the hearing date, but it's still proceeding forward. So, all I know is that I know what the case is, and I think it's a pretty weak argument, frankly, for a lot of different reasons. But it seems like something they want to proceed with, and I guess we'll just have to let it play out. But I'll follow up with some of the attorneys that we know working on those cases and see what they say.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Next is B, Resident Advisory Board, Resident Council Draft Budget.
Yeah, I can speak to this a minute. Does the board have this document you can pull up?
Yep.
It's the second one, not that one, but the next one.
Who's the chair of the resident board? Why don't we table this until they come?
Well, we can, but I thought we could talk about a couple of things, and then if we want to get clarification on them, we can ask for that. We had plugged some numbers in, and it left, almost $9,000 left. So I was at a meeting yesterday when she came to the office, but
She?
Valerie.
Okay.
And Valerie asked Andrea to plug in $5,000 for professional services and $3,252.61 for outreach. And then that would make the total, $30,000 that the board previously approved. So I didn't know if the board wanted to discuss some of those figures, or if you had any questions, we could.
I guess the professional.
What's outreach?
I couldn't answer that.
I mean, don't we have a captive audience here? Nothing to outreach to.
I mean, if we have questions, let's.
That's why I said,
Right. I mean, but I can't
I know you can't.
answer, but.
I asked her what she meant, and she didn't really have a significant answer. I said, do you mean flyers? Do you mean advertisements?
Because I know we do most of that stuff and pay for it already.
She didn't know.
Okay.
And how about the professional services and development, was there? They
Well, I
elaborate
took
on
it
that?
from her last one at the bottom there, the bulletin, that's what she had on her last thing.
Okay.
But she had like 20,000 for that originally, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
25.
25.
CBA legal counsel consultants, oh, I like that. Service coordinator, movers,
Now,
movers.
I think we discussed it last time a little bit. So on these services, like, is it like a reimbursable expense once they submit receipts, or do they submit or we give them the 30,000 and then they?
Well, it's a little
How does
bit
that work?
uncharted waters. I mean, we've never dealt with this much money before. I mean, like Andrea and I have talked about, you know, presumably they would book their own travel and pay for their own travel for the conference, which is, you know, about $12,000. You know, would we pay the stipends directly and take that out of their, you know, like if they budget 9,000 for stipends, you know, does the board want us to pay that monthly, or should we just deposit the money into the?
Well, yeah, because the stipends themselves, we have to make sure the stipends are going they're based
the
on the
individuals.
individuals. And if they don't have a full, like I know, if they don't have a full amount of individuals participating, then that would change the stipend amount. So it would seem to me it'd be distributed on a monthly basis.
In other words, pay them directly.
So out of this budget, what would you say we would hold on to and pay on their behalf versus depositing it into their bank account?
Well, I think we should consider the stipends.
Here's why I do think the stipend should go directly to them. The last thing we want to do is if somebody doesn't get paid or on time or anything like that, like theoretically we're not responsible, but it also becomes our problem. So, you know, I think that definitely has to go straight to them.
I agree. There's liability involved.
The stuff that, you know, I want to figure out what this outreach and professional service is. You know, I think it's unfortunate that, you know, 60-something% of their budget is a conference and paying themselves. Like, you know, we want them to be doing events and raising money, and, you know, when you only leave $3,000 out of 10% is going to outreach, you know, probably 3% is going to Easter and Mother's Day. Like, you know, there's some things in here that I think are kind of, but I think the professional services development, it's too nebulous. Like I said, what do they need movers for? Like when we're doing relocation, we take care of relocation. So
I think that was old when they wanted to maybe move back into or move to another office.
like I said, legal, like what is legal for? So, you know, you're spending more on legal services than Easter? I don't know.
Come back and sue us.
What's that? Come back and sue us? Right, you know, which at that
Pay the
point,
fees for them to sue us.
at that point, I hope the city would remove all of us from this board at that point. Yeah, so, you know, I think this, I'm with John, this kind of has to be tabled because, you know,
Yeah.
we want to know what these things are.
Well,
No, I
I know
figured
one
we
comment-
would table it. I just wanted to see if there were
Yeah, and
questions.
I know to Valerie's point too, you know, I read, you know, the comments in there and, you know, the lack of the board participation in these meetings. So I think, you know, that's part of it too, because I know when they met on it, I guess, you know, including myself, I didn't show up to it too,
I
but
was
to
there.
talk about, oh, at least the last one, I thought it was just,
You know, it's just,
I was there.
okay.
I showed up for it.
Now he's talking about the one we were supposed to meet on the board budget, on the budget.
On the budget, yeah.
No, I showed up for the one, the resident interest one, where they sat there and went through this various things and issues that they had.
Because I think that's the time that they probably want us to
Okay,
answer
so
questions.
in terms of following up with Valerie, we want better information, more specificity with outreach and professional services.
Yes.
I think one of the things is, I mean, this is, but like, kind of figure out what their goal is, right? So when you're creating some of these budgets, you kind of have a goal in mind of what you want to accomplish. So, you know, I can see the events on here, but so the outreach, are you trying to get, I don't know, participation for what, to do what? And so, you know, like I said, the professional services development, what is their ultimate goal? What are they trying to accomplish? And so I think they could probably come up with a little, I don't want to say, a more defined budget. You know, I mean, giving them a significantly,
I'll be quite clear. I'm not in favor of giving them money for a lawyer.
no, I'm 100%.
Okay, we have legal services. They can call our attorney, and he does not
So does the board want to
consult
just,
us about it.
does the board want to stipulate that these will not be eligible for legal counsel? Or do you want to wait and see what she proposes?
I want to see what they, I do want to see what,
propose.
yeah.
And consultants, that's pretty broad.
It is.
I mean,
What type of consultants?
I worked as a consultant. Are they going to hire me? No. Okay, and I don't want them to. But I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
that could be anybody.
Okay, all right,
But that would be my one comment, is, you know,
All right.
my concern is, like I said,
I'll bring it back. I mean,
Okay,
I'll-
two-thirds.
Say, on, you know, board approval or something?
No.
To move this forward, I mean, we've been going over this thing for like a year, 2 years.
Well, you guys need to approve the final budget, so,
no, and I don't want to approve this.
We're not ready
voting
yet.
for it.
all right, so we'll table that then, Madam Chair.
Yes, we'll table.
Please.
Okay.
Do
this
we
is-
need a motion to
these
do
take-
that?
Do we need a motion?
She's nodding yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make
Do
a
we have
motion to table
Table.
the resident advisory, resident council draft budget.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say
Aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, thank you. Okay, we move on to new business. The Resident Advisory Board to SHA annual plan.
Yeah, so the council submitted, I think 13 comments to when we met on the annual plan, the 5-year plan. So the first comment, I'll just jog through them. And then if the board, you know, wants to say something different, we have to submit this to HUD as part of our annual plan, so. Number one was they wanted to see 50 project-based vouchers in Emerald's Park Place 3, which is Cypress Square 2. Initially, we were going to do, so up to now, HUD and Congress have always limited the percentage of PBVs in a family development to 25%.
Correct.
That's kind of been long-standing policy. Under HOTMA, if you're replacing previously assisted units, which we are in this case, we can go over 25%. So I did come to the board, I think last month, to increase the PBVs to 33 units, which would be essentially 30% of the total units, 108. So that's what, that's what we're in the process of underwriting right now with Florida Housing. So I think it's too late to do 50, but I also am not sure that that's, what the board would want to do in terms of having more than 30%. I mean, that would be almost 50% of the units being project-based, which would not really achieve the income mixing we've been, hoping to achieve.
I thought part of the goal of housing was to show that some of the people work and that everybody's not just on public vouchers and that's it. That we have a mix of people, a mix of families.
Yeah, and because this is a higher poverty neighborhood, HUD and Congress has kind of frowned upon, over subsidizing the development and having more of a concentration in the property. So that's another reason we've wanted to, when we've redeveloped the public housing, we've wanted to, deconcentrate the poverty in that neighborhood, and we've definitely done that. So
I think 33 units is in line with what we agreed to and what we've discussed. I don't think we should go to 50, and we should just say outright
I like how I wrote it.
If
the way it's
Good
written
language.
is
Yeah.
perfect.
Okay.
If you want to make it stronger, like this is our policy, and then you can say that. Don't mamby-pamby about it.
okay.
Wayne, that's pretty strong coming from you.
Well,
I mean, the other
I wasn't sure when I was listening what we were.
The other thing to consider also is because it's a tax credit development, by law, they have to accept people with vouchers. So we won't just have 33 subsidized units there. I'm sure there will be more than that. Once a family with a voucher, if they decide they want to apply and move in, they will be admitted as well. But,
So,
It's not capped.
right,
if it's capped at 33%,
that's the project-based vouchers.
okay.
So that's where we have a contract with the ownership that we're going to provide subsidy for those 33 units for like 15, 20 years.
I seem to remember going to a city commission planning meeting, and one of the commissioners, one of the planning directors, or whatever they call them, I'm sorry, I don't know the proper terminology, one of the members of the planning commission objected to one of the developments we were doing because it consisted of a concentration of poverty in the Newtown area, and he wanted us to
Yes.
not concentrate the poverty all there.
That's true.
And I've heard that from people in Newtown, that they don't just want us to consistently keep poor people living on top of more poor people. They want to mix in the neighborhood. So,
But this is already set in stone.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's one.
I'm just,
2, this is kind of straightforward. They were curious to know what the quote-unquote set-aside breakdown is for Lost on Lemon 2 and Cypress Square 2.
who has that?
So basically, what?
So who has that?
the resident advisory board.
Oh, okay.
So basically, again, this is for underwriting purposes with the state, but Congress used to stipulate that no one who earned more than 60% of AMI could live in a tax credit unit. It was a hard line. If they were $5 over, they were not eligible to move in. They changed that to say it should average 60%. So with all the 30% of AMI or extremely low income, ELI is another acronym we use. But because of the 30% units, to balance it out and have it average just under 60%, you can see that there are units at 70%, there's units at 80%. So anyway, I just provided that breakdown to the resident council because
That's a good mix.
they wanted to know what it was. One comment was they were concerned about building a new tower out here because they didn't want to interfere with the nice views of some of our residents. And you can see my
Oh, are we taking away their water view?
Boy, that's
No, that was a good.
you can see my comments on that. But I did mention this is a single loaded building, so they still have southern views
Right.
of the downtown and the bay. Fourth comment is the RAB would like to see the housing authority staff demonstrate better customer service towards residents. We agree with that. We did have some customer service training for the entire team up at Robert Taylor, and I'm saying we would, try and do that again this year and have another customer service training for everyone.
Who did that last time?
I don't remember.
I would say that if we continuously get complaints about any individuals, that you should have a strong discussion with them about it and note it in their file.
Yep.
because, or maybe consider transferring them to another department. Because if they're not gonna respect our residents, then that's a problem.
Well, one person who I got consistent complaints about is no longer employed here, so.
Okay.
Rab comment number 5, that stated that the Housing Authority and the Resident Council should make a concerted effort to work together. I agree, and I've even had, some of our own commissioners report to me that Valerie's, disparaging us in community meetings and, organized gatherings and stuff. I saw the letter she wrote to the city commission. I've seen correspondence that she sent to HUD disparaging us. So, I'm trying to tell her it's a two-way street. Yes, we want to work constructively with you, but, be mindful of going around town disparaging the housing authority. They want to reconstitute the MIOK program, where residents had volunteered to check on their neighbors and do wellness checks. So we did implement that in this building, and we had like a floor captain for every floor, and they got a $50 stipend every month. And it was working great, and then people started quitting. And then we had some volunteers doing 2 or 3 floors, and then it ended up kind of fizzling out for lack of willing participants and willing volunteers. So I don't know how viable that would be to try to do again, but
I did have one comment on it. It says it's volunteer. Why do they have to be paid volunteers? I mean, the residents of
They don't.
the area should be.
Yeah, they
just like
don't.
we do in a lot of communities. You have the backs, and it's a check-in base, so it's
Right.
about community. It helps bring community together.
and some
So-
residents insisted they not be disturbed, they
Yeah,
didn't
sure.
want to participate.
Right.
So I think we made these like door hangers. So if they didn't want to have their door knocked on or whatever,
Sure.
they could hang something on the doorknob saying "I'm okay," that kind of thing. So we're open to that, but like I said, we did try it and it didn't last too long. They expressed an interest in having a meeting where SHA employees and the residents of McCown meet and discuss how to get along and respect one another. So I was definitely open to that, and trying to figure out, I don't know if this room would be big enough, but maybe while the weather's nice, we could meet outside and do it. And then the RAB is requesting that the Housing Authority involve and consult with the Resident Council prior to filing an eviction.
That's not gonna happen.
Rhonda, did you hear that?
Chuck thinks I think so.
Yes, I don't do your eviction.
I know, but
We're asking for your legal opinion.
you might have a perspective on this anyway. I had a couple of issues. Number one is I had a concern about privacy issues.
Yeah.
Of going to the resident council and saying, "Hey, we're about to evict John Doe for selling fentanyl in his unit," or
Yeah.
whatever.
I think it's a bit of a conflict. I think that the agency, the discretion should be, the agencies. The agency has the knowledge with respect to how to implement, and enforce the lease. So I think, I think some of their considerations may be different from, what the housing authority's considerations are. And then the other piece is a tenant can also request a grievance hearing. And at a grievance hearing, a tenant can have an advocate, which could be somebody from
Oh, I
resident
know.
council. It doesn't have to be a lawyer.
Oh, I know.
To assist them at the grievance hearing setting, but not in court.
Okay.
They can't appear as their attorney. So I think maybe that's where they should fit in as far as assisting residents at that level. But I would caution against allowing them to have input in the household's decisions with respect to evictions.
And I just want to say to that one, like, I've attended grievance before, and it's not like we're trying to kick people out on the street, and I know in some of the cases, even though they were going to be getting evicted, it was, what are the resources we can find and what can we do to make sure they don't wind up being homeless, making sure, that it isn't the worst possible thing for them. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I think it's kind of up to the resident as to whether or not
Yeah.
they want to go to somebody else and tell them their situation. It's
Well,
a privacy issue.
Well, I think that's the point of the grievance
okay.
hearing, right? So,
Yeah.
if a resident says, we're going to have a hearing and figure out what's going on, somebody from the resident advisory board can come and
If they want it,
rep.
it's up to the
Right.
resident.
But I'm with William. I think there's too much privacy issues to,
Yeah.
There's a lot, but I mean, a positive could be, avoiding those situations, right, where the resident's going to the council,
Sure.
relaying information that's not true,
that's not true. Sure.
right?
Well, there's always their story, our story.
Our grievance,
And then the
grievance
truth.
are public
In the
meetings,
middle.
though, right? Grievance
No,
yeah.
no, but the like you said, resident can absolutely have an advocate with them.
Okay, so maybe we just,
So,
whether we have to change our grievance policy, maybe we can add something, that will notify the tenant in our letter saying, you can always call the.
oh, we do. Yeah, we do.
Okay, well, never mind.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, typically, your eviction notice advises the tenant of their rights with respect to the grievance, policy, and they may or may not request a grievance hearing, and it does explain to them that they review documents, have an advocate, but I would not, the resident council board is not a party. I think I've done evictions for the housing authority, and certain individuals have been heavily involved and have actually attended trials and tried to jump in. So I think you don't want to set a precedent where they have a say. Of course, housing authority has to. But I don't think the board in general should have the ability to sway the house authority one way or the other with respect to their decisions.
Sure.
Okay, the next comment is
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to let you know that I have to take off. Do we need to vote on anything else? Are we voting on this?
No. Overtime pay for.
oh yeah.
So you have a,
I wanted to ask the board if the board would grant me some discretion to compensate maintenance staff. Just giving an example, during the hurricane, we followed the city's closure policy, so we ended up being closed on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday during Milton. Our on-call maintenance tech got a lot of calls and had to come here again because we were closed. He had to respond to everything that would normally have happened during regular working hours, but also was getting calls during the night to come reset elevators, reset water pumps. But because we were closed those 3 days and he didn't work his regular 40 hours, he was not eligible for overtime pay. And we can strictly follow the law, or I think it would be good to compensate people who have to come in during a hurricane
I'd approve that. It's great. that
when
they do
everyone
that.
else is at home,
Yeah, or evacuated.
I'm good with that.
or evacuated.
Yeah, you have my vote on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, you
that.
want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a
Okay.
motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No nays? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank
So I
you.
can see you guys. I don't know if I'll see you guys
Sunday.
Holiday. Oh, Sunday. I'll see
Maybe
you.
Saturday.
Whoever's there Saturday.
Saturday, yes.
If I don't see y'all, I'll be there Saturday. Have a great.
Okay,
See you,
thank
buddy.
you, you too.
All right, number 9, they expressed a concern about lighting in Bertha Mitchell. I did drive by recently one night and noticed that 23rd Street was very dark. And that there might be a couple other lights out. So a positive outcome of my meeting with Doug Jeffcoat, the new interim city manager, who used to be in charge of Public Works. But I mentioned it to him, and I immediately got an email from Public Works, and I've been communicating with them. They did identify that a number of the poles are FPL poles, but they're going to do a thorough survey of all the lights. I highlighted, a site diagram of all the streets in Bertha Mitchell. So they're going to survey it and then let me know, and I think they're going to be very helpful in getting the lighting restored in Bertha Mitchell. So I appreciate that.
Do they have to make them bulletproof?
I think we'll determine that.
Wasn't there a woman's house in Bertha Mitchell over there that was complaining the gangs were hanging out outside her home? Is that the same area?
Yes.
Figured.
I
drive down the block too.
The RAB wanted a copy of the VAWA policy, so we gave them that.
What's the VAWA policy?
Violence Against Women Act. They are again trying to allow the public to participate virtually, and I've told them that the board has settled that. It's in-person meetings. The way we did it for years, residents have been coming and attending our meetings and providing comments, and that's the same as city and county commission meetings are also being run. The council asked to have $30,000 deposited into their bank account for the past year because it took us so long to approve the budget and the MOU. And then they talked about the process of SHA unit inspections for HCV to be adjusted so that units are clean. So HUD's inspection standards do not allow for the housing authority to fail a unit for cleanliness. They deem that is a resident's decision, and if the resident feels the unit's too dirty, they can decide not to live there. And a lot of times, if they complain about certain things to the landlord, when they inspect the unit, the landlord will address those issues prior to move-in, and in some situations, the landlord will deduct money from the first month's rent if the tenant is willing to clean it themselves. So there's a bunch of different ways to handle that, but our inspector can't fail it because it's not, as clean as we would like. There's specific, criteria for failing a unit, and that is not one of them. So, I did want to bring up one other issue with the board, just to get your input. Hello.
Hello, finding you.
So, we've owned our office building on North Osprey for 10 years now, and we're full. We have taken waiting areas. As you recall, when we bought it, half of the upstairs was leased by a group of therapists. And during COVID, when they weren't seeing people in person, they asked us if we would let them out of their lease. And I was like, sure, but we really needed space also. So it worked out really well for us. But now every office has been spoken for. We converted a nice waiting area, reception area upstairs. We subdivided that into additional offices. And the fact is, our voucher program continues to expand and grow. It's our biggest program, and every time we can, we apply for new vouchers. Of course, when we did the courts renovation, we got 100 vouchers for that. When HUD asked us to administer brand new project-based vouchers at the Jefferson Center, we agreed to do that. That was like 148. And the VA contacted us and said, we want to apply for another 125 VASH vouchers. Yes, let's do that. So it continues to grow. It will continue to grow. One idea I had, it was to look at a property that may be on the market right there in our Morrill Court, so that we could potentially add another property, but all be still on the same campus, so to speak. Obviously, we could do something off campus, but then we're going to be in different locations. So,
Is this in regards to them having some space for office? Is that why you're bringing this up as their concern?
well, we are in the process of outgrowing that building. So I'm just looking at what would be our options moving forward. And if there's a property available there in Morrill Court, that would be a possibility. And I think the thought would be the administrative staff could move into that smaller building, and then Section 8 could take over the entire existing building. And we could structure it the way we did the purchase, which was that the voucher program, which has money in reserves, administrative reserves, not subsidy reserves, that they could prepay the rent and basically prepay the rent for the upstairs portion.
Right.
And we could take that prepaid amount and put it down towards the purchase of the new building. So, any thoughts on that?
I also know Florida Cancer Specialists will be moving, I think, in the next year or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing with that building, but it's huge and it's right around the corner.
I agree. We need to look for more professional looking space rather than piecemealing a campus together.
John doesn't like our building.
And there's another place right on the corner of Washington that's available. It's 2 stories, and it's part of a larger building, and it's professional office space.
But I know that's why, 2 stories. I mean, it's, like I said, it's pretty massive. So.
And it's got some private parking. Gated.
Yeah, no, I think.
Are you talking about the cancer center?
Mm-hmm.
When would that be?
I think they're trying to do it in the next year. So, but yeah, no, I think if we're outgrowing it, we should start looking for some new spots, for sure.
Having a standalone building or something that looks more professional might be better for us.
Does the board think that our building looks unprofessional?
No.
Well, the color sure is.
The color blends in with the neighborhood.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's that old Florida style.
Yeah, exactly.
He's from New York. He's not old Florida.
Oh. Florida natives like that, though.
We do.
That's too bad. They're outnumbered now.
I'm from New York, too.
See?
Just FYI.
So, did you move here like me to get away from people like me?
No.
I did.
Yeah, no,
No, I just think, as a housing authority, we are an employer in the area. We represent the residents, and we need to have a more professional space. That's my feeling. I'm only one person, so, and we can sell that building and make some money.
did you identify sources of funds in our existing budget that we have availability to use towards the purchase of another facility?
Well,
And how much?
the source I just mentioned is one.
And that's what we did for that building too.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about this plan of expanding within Morrell Court is, we wouldn't have
Sure.
to,
Go out.
literally move everybody,
Extreme overhead,
We're supposed to see it on the 19th, and,
Who's gonna go look at it?
right now, we don't know, like, how many, office spaces or cubicle areas we could, yield from it.
This is the building.
I mean, an
This is the
attorney,
site.
I think an attorney has lived and worked there, so it's like, most of those units are live-work units. There's like salons and other businesses on the first floor, and there's residences on top.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah.
So we just gotta look at the layout and interior and see, if it's, would be suitable for, X number of offices or cubicles.
Well, can you get us some more info and
Yeah.
come back to it? I mean, that's fine. Yeah.
Maybe you should take Ernestine with you when you go look at it.
I go. I'll go.
I think it's at 9 a.m. on the 19th.
9 a.m. on the
I can
19th?
send you
Okay.
the appointment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we can move on to program updates. Accepted by consent. Can we make a motion to
To
approve
accept by consent.
by consent? Second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, everything's approved. Okay, do we have any commissioner announcements or comments? Starting with Commissioner Roman.
none at this time.
No.
Yeah, it's getting cold outside.
None? Okay, any comments?
Baby's getting cold outside.
Okay, well, thank you for everyone attending. Our next
Oh.
meeting will be on January 29th, on Wednesday. Everyone have a safe and happy holiday.
You too.
And I know y'all know this, but Shop with a Cop is Saturday morning.
And, Shop with a Cop is Saturday morning at 6 a.m.
5 a.m.
Thank you for telling me, I definitely forgot.
5 a.m.?
5 a.m.
5 a.m.?
5 a.m.
No, it's
6.
Thank you, everyone.
It's
Okay,
6 or
Everything's sent out at 5.
well, I think that's for the kids and stuff.
Oh,
Because they've got to get loaded onto the bus and stuff.
me, like
The event at Target